Welcome to the Be Yourself at Work cast with me, Liz Villani, the founder of Be Yourself at Work. For this month's I Am a podcast, I want to really focus on your superpowers. You know who you are, and once you've got your values, you can use them to supercharge your career. We're all unique. There's only one you. But the big challenge that so many of us face is that we forget to be unique, that we are unique. We put ourselves down because we think that we're not unique. And often we'll compare ourselves to other people and conform to a workplace culture or professionalism or try and shift and change to fit in, whether that's because we feel like a bit of an imposter or we're just not thinking about it and we're just naturally and consciously copying and emulating the people around us. So I want you to really reflect and think about your superpowers in this session. Get your I am out, your I am card or your I am PDF in front of you, and just walk through the steps that I'm going to explore with you to create a strategy where you can start to practice and notice your individualism. Because when you do, wow, it can really help you to be very distinctive and characterful, all in a good way. And then that can really help you to supercharge your career. So, the first thing I want to explore in this podcast is thinking about certain examples of values that could be a superpower. So, all of your values are your superpowers, and we'll come to the layers of the I am. But there are certain values that might exist on your I am that will be more useful, if you like, as a superpower than others. And this also comes down, as I said, to the layers, which I'll come to. So the first thing I would really encourage you to do is to take a sweep of your I am. Just run your eyes from the bottom up, ideally, as always, on your I am. Which values stand out as more non-traditional, if you like, in the workplace? Maybe you've got values that are a little bit alternative. Maybe you've got values that are a little bit emotive. So just running your eyes up. So we want to avoid, for superpower status at this stage, values that a lot of us will have that are there in common. So, for example, aspects of competence or integrity or kindness. We'll come back to those. It doesn't mean they're not important, but often a lot of us have them. And this is about really using your superpowers to be unique and supercharge your career. So, what we want to do, first of all, in this sense, is focus on your uniqueness itself. So, think of some examples. As you run your eyes, I'll do the same with mine. So examples of superpowers, values that are non-traditional and slightly alternative. I'm going to pick out the first one in my bedrock, stillness, because for me, stillness is almost like an energy. It's a magical sense. It's an essence. It's almost like a calm, a glow. And actually it feels like a sort of universal space of grace, if you like. So it's kind of got an energy. So that's one of my potential, if you like, that I'm going to choose as a superpower value. I've then got competence, I've got relaxed comfort, I've got integrity. So I'm going to move beyond those. It's not that they're not important, but I'm kind of thinking, well, which ones really make me potentially stand out? I then go into my reputational layer. Okay, emotional power, this matriarchal energy and courage. I quite like that as a superpower value. I am value. That feels quite different, and also expansive rebellion. So this sense of having a spirit and a crusade, and an element of rebelliousness, if you like. I'm going to move beyond positivity, kindness, celebration, love on my I am. And I'm going to go for cheeky spontaneity, this freedom of fun, a smiling humour that's quite spontaneous and full of surprises. And for now, I'm going to ignore my heart value because it's closeness. I like to be connected with others. So it's not necessarily going to be very distinctive. Now, you might look at your I am, go, oh, Liz, I haven't got anything distinctive in my I am. That won't be true. So if you struggle with this exercise, ask somebody else. Show them your values card, show them your I am PDF, and ask them, what is it on here that is a bit distinctive, that's a little bit alternative, a little bit non-traditional. What you really want to do is choose two or three You don't really want one. I'd encourage you to choose 2 or 3 values that you're going to decide to amplify to become your superpowers. So once you've chosen them, we're then going to have a look at the position of the values on your I am and how to use your I am superpower values to just amplify them. So let's just quickly walk through the layers. The bedrock, the bottom of your I am, this is where you should start. So here let's think about scene setting, first impressions, when you've got a really important proposal or presentation or interview or your performance review if you have them, or just a really important conversation. This is where you should really start. And despite your superpower values, you should definitely still start here. If you have one of your identified values in this bedrock position, this is what you need to focus on though and slightly amplify here. So if I think about stillness, so I've chosen stillness, it's in my bedrock, that magical sense, that peace. What that tells me on first impressions is that I need to almost pause and exude an aura, really step into that energy of stillness to kind of pick up somebody else's energy too. So I'm going to pause, I'm going to be silent and just take in the person or take in the room as an example. So let's move to the reputational layer. Now, here, when we think about supercharging our career, we need to really amplify this layer generally. The values on your I am that are in your reputational layer correlate directly with your positive feedback. People buy people and they will buy you. So amplify these anyway. But where you've got a identified superpower value on your reputational layer, you can really go for it. Okay. Really take that value and sit within it and imagine if you gave that value to somebody else because of you, what would be the impact on them? Okay, so I'm going to choose one of mine. I'm going to go for expansive rebellion. Okay, so this is my superpower value that I've chosen, one of 2 in my reputational layer. It's about just watch me, it's rebelliousness, it's supportive, it's crusading, it's spirited. So if I'm like that with an individual, okay, so I'm going to amplify and supercharge my career using that expansive rebellion, the impact on them could be an opening of their mind to what could be possible. They're coming across somebody who is obviously entrepreneurial, obviously really thinking about things that are new and different and encouraging a crusade, a mission because of that spirit to challenge the norm. So the receiver of me, of that supercharged value, is going to feel excited potentially, where they maybe felt a bit unsure of themselves or the plan or what would work or what wouldn't, or didn't have any ideas. That's potentially going to be their gift to them, opening up those ideas, opening up that rebellious energy, getting them to think differently. So you need to amplify that. So look at your values and look at any superpower values that you've identified on that reputational layer. Think about the impact, the gift that you give to those people. So you might have, I don't know, talkativeness. You get people talking, you get the whole room talking. You build relationships. People like they can feel like they can, be heard and express themselves. Maybe you've got aspects of coaching or facilitation and those kinds of superpower values on your reputational value. Wow, those values help people to discover answers. That's amazing superpower work. Okay. So really amplify and think about the impact of those superpower values and your reputational layer on the people around you. The same if you're in a position in your job where you've got a large audience. So if you think about a town hall situation or a big pitch, or a company update, an important presentation at the board meeting, it's really important that at the same time you think about the amplification of those values on the entire room. A lot of people when they use their I am, sometimes they think about themselves, they think one on one, and then a lot of us can get nervous about larger audiences. Just imagine that the audience is one person. Read it the same way and amplify your energy so that through that value, so that you'll really stand out, be memorable and distinctive because of that superpower value. It should be really obvious as a gift to the room or an individual. So let's go to the motivator layer then. Thinking about the motivator layer, this is your why, your energy, it's your purpose, it's where you're coming from. So if you've got values that you potentially could amplify as a superpower here on the motivator layer, think about the close of meetings, the close of presentations. When you're summing up, you're summarizing and summing up. Think about the energy that you're coming from. It often, I think, as human beings, we just think about the words that we say or the facts we can recite. Our energy, your energy, is part of your superpower. So just even embodying the energy of your motivator layer, and particularly any values that you see as your superpowers, will help. So I've got cheeky spontaneity. Now we're here in the realm of heart and motivators, so we need to be careful not to overplay this value and be very aware of the impact of these values being overplayed, so that we can be accountable for our energy. But if I were to really amplify my identified superpower value of cheeky spontaneity, when I'm really coming from that energy, I think I'd have a sparkle in my eye, a twinkle, I think I'd definitely be positive. My energy would be a little bit playful as well, and quite youthful as well, it feels as well. Sometimes I think we feel like we have to be very serious, don't we, to make a good impression. So I'm going to amplify that cheekiness to be more human, to be more me, to break the ice, to charge the energy with a lovely sense of humour and fun and freedom. We've then got the heart value. So the heart value, this is almost like your last impression. Think about the final handshake if you're in an interview or a pitch or a conversation or a meeting. It's you opening the door at the end of the session or conversation, the close as you come off Teams, the last conversation you have with a client or a patient or whatever your working world is. Letting your heart value shine through your eyes and amplifying the energy of that in those moments will help you to be memorable. So in summary then, things that you can do is identify values that become superchargers, if you like, your superpowers, and then amplify them using the layering that I've just done, but also in moments when you need to really be impressive. So, when you want to really make a brilliant impression, keep balanced, but use your 2 or 3 superpower values and just edge them up, okay? Edge them up. Trust yourself. So many of us will pigeonhole, particularly non-traditional values or non-workplace I am values, and worry actually that if we use them even enough, in the moments that matter, that will come across as unprofessional or inappropriate. You won't, as long as you're being you. So just trust yourself. And if the superpower value is at the top of your I am, your heart and motivators, you already had your I am debrief. Just be aware that you could make a challenging impression, and take steps to ensure that that you're aware of that and trust yourself. So pressing those buttons of those values and then being aware of overdoing them is a really good way of using different values within you to have more superpower and supercharge your career. So let's have a look at the career aspect now with some tips. You should really be using the language, the words, the phrases of your I am as you talk and as you communicate. So whether that's, in written documents, whether that's in emails, whether that's in conversations with important people at the right moments, it's really amplifying that energy. And one of the things I always encourage people to do is just notice how much you're doing that. Notice your words, notice your inner conversations. We kind of live so unconsciously that it's, we're almost not aware of how we speak, if you like. So noticing your language, using the words and phrases in your I am as things that you say all the time, and then giving the gift of you. So people will say to me often is, what is it that I need to do to really sort of supercharge my work world, supercharge my career? And a non-conformity, aspects of not, just trusting yourself, being you and standing out are really important in that. But also just really focusing on amplifying the natural individual you in different scenarios is really, really important. Supercharging your career is about deciding that you're going to be you, amplifying you, and then lining up what you know and goals around it, and then going for it with confidence to make a difference in the world. The people that succeed the most with this, what I find is they make a great impression and supercharge their career by helping others. Now, I'm not just talking about coaching or supporting or being a leader or a manager and those things, but being really human and being really you has a authenticity to it that helps other people feel like you're recognizing them, that helps other people feel like, they can recognize themselves and be authentic as well. So part of supercharging your career is using your natural energy, your natural authenticity to make an impression on others where they believe more in themselves, where they just remember you because you stand out, because you're unique, because your energy is different. So, absolutely amplifying that energy of your I am will really help. So think about the setting as well. I've got relaxed comfort in my bedrock. Don't thrive in a formal environment, so I don't tend to use or create formal environments. What do you thrive in? Think about the impression that you make when it matters, particularly sort of pitches, meetings, interviews, big networking events, conversations. Even the clothes you wear, do they reflect your unique character? What about your tools? Your I don't know, your pens, your iPads, your phone cover, your all of those things, your accessories. Are you really amplifying your uniqueness so that you stand out because of who you are, so that you're memorable, so that you then have confidence and move forward? And that's where I want to come back to really, as we start to reflect and close on this podcast, is practicing and noticing makes such a difference. So most of us, as I keep saying, we just kind of go through months, weeks, years, decades, and for some of our careers, of our working life, without really noticing how we're behaving and actually tactically lining up that with who we are. And so the world is missing out on us. You're missing out. People are missing out on your superpowers. You're not tactically, consciously thinking, right, okay, I'm going to really focus on this value. And it's, that sense of expansive rebellion. And I'm going to push that harder. But when you do, that's when you start to make changes in the world. And, I use the world to represent all of our worlds, whether that's just outside your back door or in your workplace or in your county, your country, your town, in the world. All things happen because often one person starts them. And that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be the one that changes the world, but actually you could influence somebody to go and do something they wouldn't naturally, authentically do, but they would if they were being them because you're being you. So really speaking, in a noticeable, notice what you say, practice, notice your individualism. It makes me think about being British, going to an English speaking country where they have a very different accent, like in the United States, for example. It's a good example. So it's, when you do that, you've had that experience, you really notice and you're quite self conscious, not in a bad way, but you really notice how you're different to other people. in the room, and it's kind of really obvious to the point where I've certainly found myself being even more British in my accent. It's weird, but it was really striking how much I recognized it in that moment. And what I've found is that if I can recognize certain values and then amplify them at the same level of consciousness, and notice just in a single meeting at the beginning of one day, setting diary reminders, to do those things, actually the individualism that we all have can really make us dramatically different. So I hope that's been useful. Have a look too at the tips on the I Am Monthly. I've tried to create some tips to help you to think about certain values and types of values that you could use to be your superpowers. But ultimately, you'll know instinctively, and often they're the ones you're a little bit afraid of. You're not necessarily using. You use when you're more comfortable, if you like. And use the layers of your I am to decide on the level that you bring them in. Okay. And just play and practice, because it's your uniqueness, it's you that will make the difference and supercharge your career.